Today on Garbage Time Fantasy Football, we have bold takes. It's time for Garbage Time. And welcome into Fantasy.
Yeah, it's been a while for the Ghost guys.
And welcome into Garbage Time Fantasy Football. I am your host, Ron the Fantasy Spectre Seymour. Joined.
I thought the Ghost would give you a little bit of encouragement.
Right, yeah. At least one of us gets our intro right. Joined today by Joseph McCann. How you doing today, Joe?
All right, let's try to start this over and actually have a bit of a smooth show tonight. And tonight we'll see if you're gonna destroy my bold takes. So we'll get into that.
That's right. And if you want to watch the show, make sure you're over on the YouTube, which you should be right now, because this is the only way you're watching it at this exact moment. At Garbage Time Fantasy Football over on YouTube. If you're listening, you might be listening over on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Maybe you found it on Tunein Radio, Pandora. Took forever, but we're all the way up in space now.
Yeah. Iheartradio.
Iheartradio. All the radios. All right. Let's do some news. You want to do some news?
That. Yeah, we can do that.
News updates.
All right, first little bit of news we have tonight is the Athletics' Michael Sean Duggar is reporting that he believes Kenneth Walker is going to be a perfect fit for Seattle's outside zone running scheme. What are your thoughts on Kenneth Walker coming up into this season? Ron the Spectre Seymour.
I kind of think he's going to be a dud. Rashad Penny is going to be amazing. Oh, wait, no, that's just what I want to happen for my Dynasty football team. That's right. No, I think Kenneth Walker is going to be very involved in this offense. I think it'll be more of a split between him and Rashad Penny than people want, assuming Penny stays healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe he is a prominent person in this offense this year.
Now, what do you see Kenneth Walker's upside being in this offense for Seattle? Where do you think he could finish by the end of the year? He seems to be a very popular topic among the fantasy universes right now.
His upside, best, I think his best possible finish would be somewhere in the 8 to 10 range. I don't think this offense scores enough touchdowns for him to really get up into that top echelon of players. Plus, if Rashad Penny stays on the field, he's not going to get the high volume of work that you would like to see. Like a James Robinson with the crappy Jacksonville Jaguars, just got every single touch, every single running back completion. So you're not going to get that with Kenneth Walker.
You're already starting to see the narratives of Rashad Penny starting to tweak himself in non-contact schemes out there. It's a foregone conclusion. I think Kenneth Walker is going to be the number one running back for this team by week 2 or 3, and I think he's going to get the majority of that work, and I think he's going to be very valuable for fantasy football. Don't look for Rashad Penny to be very explosive this year for the Seattle Seahawks. I think it's just going to go to the simple fact that not only that, Kenneth Walker, I think, is just more talented than him as a running back too, which another host on this show, JJ, had alluded to when we were doing our rookie mock drafts, and he took him number 1 overall.
Rashad Penny is extremely talented. He was a first-round draft pick, and you saw at the end of last year through those 5-game stretches what he can do when healthy.
Yeah, that's the key there. You're not talented if you can't stay on the field. You're
Well,
gonna
no,
cast.
and I completely agree with that scenario, but I do believe that they are going to try to keep this a split. They're going to want to run the ball a lot, and they're not going to want to destroy Kenneth Walker in a year that's ultimately going to be meaningless.
Well, that's an adorable sentiment, but for Rashad Penny to actually play, he's got to be on the field, and that's not going to happen. So look for Kenneth Walker to be very productive this year.
Still, even if Rashad Penny gets injured, I still don't think he breaks top 8.
Okay. Next little bit of news we have tonight, too, is there's rumors floating out there that Dalton Schultz is going to zoom away from Cowboys mandatory camp and is trying to force a new contract. What's your thoughts on this, and could this affect his play coming into the season should he hold out for long portions of the offseason?
I don't know how much money the Cowboys have. I thought they were kind of up against it. I don't remember if them trading Amari Cooper helped that at all. I think they kind of gave him the franchise tag because that's what they had to give at the time. But maybe they're working. Maybe this is a posturing move to try to get a little bit more money. I don't know. I'm sure it'll work itself out.
Yeah, it's going to work itself out. And
the Cowboys can't lose any more weapons.
They don't have a choice here. They don't have any other one that can really take over the position that Dalton Schultz is doing there. They've already lost another tight end this offseason, and he's kind of got them by the balls in this situation. They don't really have an option. They may just have to push that money farther down the line into the salary cap and pay him ultimately.
Right.
And ultimately, that may make him happy and make him play very good this season. So I do like Dalton Schultz coming into this season. Next little bit of news we have up tonight is Ron's about to glitter and gleam in his eyes because I want to talk about Lamar Jackson now. Another athletic writer, Jeff Zarbak, believes that the Ravens are banking on returning back to their 2019 system, where he believes that they're going to be heavy in the run game and go to the security blanket of the tight end position, specifically targeting Mark Andrews this year. Do you think this could be highly beneficial to Lamar Jackson's fantasy outlook for this year? And what do you see him doing for this upcoming season, Ron Seymour?
I mean, Lamar Jackson is never going to be like the 4,500 yard passer with, 30 something passing touchdowns. I know in his second season when he won MVP, he was insanely efficient. So I'm guessing that's the 2019 season. Yeah. And he's just not going to be that efficient again. Does he have that kind of upside? Yeah, we've seen it. Of course he has that kind of upside. But, I mean, he'll probably finish top 5 fantasy quarterback, 6, 7, maybe.
Strictly based on that rushing upside and the security blankets that he does already have on that team?
Yeah, and I mean, just the fact that when he gets running, he can't be stopped. It's just been shown. And he hasn't lost a step yet. I know it's coming. Lamar Jackson is going to be one of those guys when he loses his legs, he's done. He just won't be an efficient. He won't be a good enough pocket passer to stay alive in the NFL when he can't run like he does.
So are you kind of giving him a little bit of a Vince Young curve here? I'm not saying nearly as short as Vince Young's career, but he's not someone that's going to be able to acclimate after.
You definitely won't see him still playing when he's like 38, like some of these other guys.
Okay. When I read this report too, do you kind of get the sense that the real benefits of this kind of a report are actually going to be J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards in this upcoming season, should they be healthy? It kind of feels like you're going to get a lot of passing work to these running backs.
I mean, even in 2019, the running backs didn't get a lot of passing work. But if they're going back to that type of thing, I mean, that year you had, I want to say, 2 running backs that were almost startable close to every week in fantasy, along with Lamar Jackson. They were rushing for copious. I mean, they led the NFL in rush attempts and rushing yards, I believe, as a team. So if you're going back to that, yeah, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards should be extremely relevant in fantasy.
Do you see them being a good value this upcoming season then? Based on their draft ADP currently around the 4th or 5th round for J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards going very much later in the drafts?
Yeah, the only bad thing is a lot of people don't draft until, right before the season, and if they run these guys out there in preseason and people see that they're healed from these injuries, J.K. Dobbins especially, his stock will go up. It wouldn't shock me if J.K. Dobbins by draft season, like actual drafts and everything by the beginning of the year, is a 2nd round pick in some fantasy football drafts.
That's a little high for me, but
it wouldn't shock me. I wouldn't necessarily.
I'm not saying that teams potentially couldn't take him at that point. I mean, he's a name. People like him. Running back is the name of the game in most formats, except for Superflex. And he's valuable. Yeah, I could end up seeing that happening. I'm just saying I would like him at that current value.
Didn't you have him
second round
before he got injured last year? Wasn't he one of your guys that you said was going to lead the AFC in rushing?
I had him doing something like that because
I think you said that.
We had him rated very high in his yards per carry, and I freaking loved his outlook. Yep. And then shortly right after that, the curse set in, and then he ended up going right down probably a week or two later after we were making those predictions. So it's just you have a real hope that he comes back to the player that he was being projected to before, but most of the time it doesn't end up. It's going to be close. I don't think
it was an ACL. It was an ACL. He's young, and he's had, by the time actual real football starts, he will have had over a year of recovery of time since it happened.
Sounds like you're really high on J.K. Dobbins for this upcoming season. Then
shut up, Joe.
I will say this though: jack up his price during the auction portion of our drafts this year.
Yeah.
Because Ron Seymour is targeting J.K. Dobbins.
No, I would never do that.
All right, let's get a note to a retirement here. There's someone on this show that has an even more impressive beard than you that has now left the league, and we have to cover him for a minute. Ryan Fitzpatrick has officially retired from the NFL, and there's going to be an ode to him this Friday when he releases a video talking about his favorite teammates coming up for this offseason. So not highly fantasy relevant unless he comes out of retirement for the season. But what were your thoughts of Ryan Fitzpatrick over the years?
He was always just fun to watch. Whether, I don't know, when he stole Deshaun Jackson's gear, he was always just a fun player to root for. And he had some success on the field. I think he played in one playoff game or something like that through his entire career, played for 9 different teams. I don't know. He was always a fun character.
Would you believe that he actually holds a franchise record for passing yards in a season for a team?
Yeah, it's probably someone like the Dolphins or the Jets.
It's actually the Jets.
Yeah.
Passing touchdowns, not yards.
He balled out really when he was with the Jets. Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker were fantasy studs when he was there.
Yeah, and then, speaking of fantasy studs, kind of like Brandon Marshall, there's talk of Drake London potentially being like him this upcoming season. And guys, tomorrow we have Dynasty Football Dad, another big prominent podcaster, very intelligent, very stat-driven, coming onto our podcast to break down the NFC North. And he released a video today talking about Drake London. And he took an opposite viewpoint to what I thought, which is I see Drake London as potentially the number 1 redraft rookie for this year based on volume and a top 2 for Dynasty this coming year. And he thinks potentially that people are going to be evaluating him too high. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit before we get into the NFC North breakdown. But yeah, tune in tomorrow to see him join our podcast and him drop the knowledge on us, hopefully. And you'll get some good debates back and forth with that, I think.
Hopefully your guys' internet doesn't cut out while you have a guest on.
I'm not worried about my internet cutting out. I will be the one running the stream. Notice I don't ever get kicked out of the chat when we're doing these podcasts. N'Keal Harry is not even expected to make the roster. Do you think that's going to be the case with the Patriots?
Probably. Doesn't matter. Move on.
Gronkowski is expected to sign before training camp. And an interesting report out of today, sliding on from that news, is the Falcons quarterbacks, specifically Mariota and Desmond Ridder, are expected to be used in prominent running roles, according to the offensive coordinator there with the Falcons. Do you think this is kind of interesting for specifically super flex formats where you could see them get on the run, maybe score some red zone touchdowns?
They probably could definitely have some good streaming weeks. I don't think it's hard, when a team gets a quarterback like Mariota, who was the second overall in his draft class, touted as a good quarterback coming out, and then just kind of fell on his face. But he fell on his face for a Titans team that at the time wasn't that great. You can almost make the case of like Ryan Tannehill. Came out highly touted, fell on his face with a crappy Dolphins team. New places, new faces.
Sounds like a former episode.
Started doing better. Maybe Mariota picks up, and is decent. I guess it's possible. Not plausible, but possible. But I don't think they score enough.
Does he finish out the season for the Atlanta Falcons this year, or do they go to Ridder at some point?
No, because I don't think they're going to win enough games. So even if he starts, and you figure they start 1-7, 1-8, somewhere in that area, they're going to have to see what they have in Ridder before going into next season.
I agree with that. Some Joe Math happened today. The Denver Broncos were bought out today for $4.5 billion by a Walmart owner. Thoughts?
How was that Joe Math?
Because it's an insane evaluation for any franchise in the NFL, and that's been happening for the last few years.
I don't know. I don't care about that.
Are you happy Aaron Donald got a contract, though?
Aaron Donald, yeah. He definitely deserves it. He saved them the Super Bowl.
I think that'll make fantasy owners that pick up the Rams DST very happy for this upcoming season, because they're typically one of the ones that go up aboard first, usually second or third round before the end of the draft.
I don't think I never thought that Aaron Donald was going to retire anyways.
Nah, I wasn't getting that vibe anyway. And last little bit of thing that we get into here before we get into my bold takes is we're on Deshaun Watson check here again. He's got a 24th accusation coming out now, and Rusty Hardin, his attorney, believes the NFL is going to make a decision very soon, and it's not going to be on Deshaun Watson's liking. What's your evaluation on this now? Is this just absolute cancerous at this point?
My evaluation is the same it always been. He's probably going to end up paying a bunch of fines and get suspended for 4 to 6 games. And that'll be it. He's already not been indicted. There's not going to be, like a huge legal thing, blowback from this. There is still the civil cases, but there's not going to be any like jail time or anything like that. Most likely just going to be paying people a bunch of money, getting suspended for a few weeks, and then that'll be the end of it.
All right. You ready to get into some bold takes here?
I am ready.
All right. So a lot of shows have been doing a series of episodes where we do bold takes for the upcoming fantasy season. And in June, when there's not a lot of things to do and a lot of things to talk about, we want to surmise and do some fun things here. So I'm going to start first for all of the podcasters and give 5 bold takes I think could potentially happen for this season. Some a little bit less jaw-dropping as some of the other ones that I've got, which I will save one for last, which will make Ron probably want to throw his laptop, like my 1,000-yard running prediction from last season. Not one quite as bold as that, but one that I think that he will throw the laptop at. So we'll see when we get to that point. All right. I'm going to start with one tonight that I think JJ can probably agree with this sentiment. And I see a wide receiver who had a 4-touchdown game, Gabriel Davis, against Kansas City last year, finishing the season as a higher fantasy score than Stephon Diggs, not during the first half of the season, but after the second half of the season, and ultimately taking over the number one role for the Buffalo Bills. We kind of saw statistically at the end of the season when he kind of was forced into that role due to some injuries. We saw in his last 4 games him catching 26 of 45 targets for 449 yards and jaw-dropping 8 touchdowns. So when given that opportunity, given the volume, based on his size, the ability that he has, the talent that you have there, he was shown to be absolutely dominant and talented enough in that offense and a very high volume offense to take a big chunk of that pie going forward. So for my big prediction going forward, I think Gabriel Davis could be a very valuable fantasy pick for owners next year, and that he could ultimately end up being the number one wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills next season. So, Ron Seymour, what's your thoughts on my first prediction?
I'm also very high on Gabriel Davis. Like you said, the playoff game, but not even just that. If you go back and you look at when they finally started giving him the reins, when they finally were like, Emmanuel Sanders finally like fell off, like messed up. I think it was somewhere around week 12 or something like that.
I believe it was 15. 3 weeks later. So when you started to see his role increase.
No, it started increasing before that, but like week 15 was when he had a first blow up game. But he went from getting like something around like 20% of the snaps all the way up to 50, 60% of the snaps. If that increases anymore, he's going to have a really good year. Then you got to look at the moves that they made. They didn't bring anyone in to challenge for Emmanuel Sanders' role that he had in that offense.
No, it was more for Cole Beasley's role, and that was Jamison Crowder.
And that was just Jamison Crowder. They drafted a wide receiver. I don't think it was until like the 3rd or 4th round, though.
Right.
So look at the moves they've made. They think Gabriel Davis is their guy. Now to your bolder take of he's going to be the number one. Not saying it's impossible, but Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs have a very good relationship, and Josh Allen looks for Stephon Diggs first. And especially in key situations, he's going to look for Stephon Diggs. Remember, the only reason that Gabriel Davis was able to do those things, not saying he's not talented, but in the playoff game, you don't go for 204 unless that top coverage is over on Stephon Diggs.
Well, I was going to use that same example, but in a different light. Think of it this way. Yes, that attention may have been thrown Stephon Diggs' way, but this might be a changing of the guard because now you see teams like the Kansas City Chiefs realizing, oh shit, this kid is insanely talented. Not only that, 4 or 5 years younger at age 23. So he's not even at his prime capabilities right now. It's only going to create more chemistry with Josh Allen going forward. Give it another half a season, that chemistry may increase. On top of that, 200 yards is just nothing to laugh at. And that's a playoff oddity. That's probably going to be one of the best games of his career. But you look at him on tape, and he does the right things to be a number one wide receiver in this league. And Diggs isn't getting younger at this point. So I honestly believe that was a small sample size of a changing of the guard, and we will see that over the first half of next season.
The only problem with that is other teams will notice the changing of the guard, and then they will start changing their defense, and he's not going to have, he'll still have, good games because he is very talented, but you'll see Stephon Diggs having much better games at that point because the coverage will start rolling to Gabriel Davis's way. It's kind of a pendulum almost.
I'm arguing Gabriel Davis, I think, is talented enough to adapt to that, though. I really see him taking that role.
But you're also, in turn, saying that Stephon Diggs is not talented in that case.
No, not at all. I think this is the kind of offense that could prominently have 2 top 12.
They're both finishing it. Definitely at least top 20.
Be fun as hell to see, though, won't it?
That's true.
All right, you ready for my second prediction here?
Yeah.
All right, here's one where you might go, or maybe. All right, so we knew I had an absolute man crush on Trey Lance last year, correct?
Yeah, he was one of your 3,000-yard rushers.
Well, I'm going right down that well again.
He was close.
I'm saying Trey Lance is going to finish as a top 5 fantasy quarterback for this upcoming season. Before you completely jump on my throat for this, let me go over the reasons why I think this, okay? So I think there's absolutely the potential for him to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year, especially in San Francisco's dual threat offense. He's got the running ability. But when he was at North Dakota State, he played a prominent role where he called his name a lot and was a red zone threat. Got a lot of touchdowns in that offense. I believe when he was at North Dakota State, he rushed for 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns when he played last, which was almost 3 years ago up to this point. But Kyle Shanahan is adapted enough to run this offense around this kid who he spent 3 first-round draft picks to get. Not only that, they have the weapons around him, which I think can adapt to that. They're going to look to establish a running game. And something that was kind of also interesting about him, and I think they got the wide receivers for that again, is last year Trey Lance averaged the most yards per attempt throwing downfield, and that's 10-plus air yards over the top of that. So he's a deep ball thrower, and I think he's got the wide receivers who could take advantage of that, specifically Deebo Samuel. He's got nice security blankets with George Kittle, and that may be advantageous to Ayuk as well, who's got a lot of underrated speed too. So he's a deep ball thrower.
Oh God,
he's very good
at again, are you?
No, I'm not on Ayuk for sure. I am on Deebo. Someone's gonna have to suffer from this.
So so draft Ayuk. Joe's on Deebo. Got it.
Yeah, no, I am definitely not on Ayuk next year. So yeah, no, I love the rushing ability with him. He's got a nice deep ball. He's gonna have to be a lot more accurate, and there's absolutely no way that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be starting for week 1. We see in the press conferences, they're slipping up that he may not even be on the team by that point. I honestly think there's going to be a point where nobody's going to trade for him and he's going to end up being cut because people know that he's not going to be able to remain on the roster. So honestly, I think this is all adding up to an absolute perfect storm for Trey Lance. The rushing upside's there, the touchdown ability's there, and he's going to call his name a lot in the red zone next year. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to not be a top 5 quarterback next year. And I think he's a great add in dynasty formats and redrafts.
He definitely could get into the top 5 because of the rushing alone. I don't like Trey Lance as a passer. If Lamar Jackson didn't come out and kind of change the way the quarterback position was played. And, a little bit RG3 before him. There was a few people before that kind of ran, but Lamar Jackson really came out and showed, like, look at what you can do. When Lamar Jackson came out, people are like, oh, he should change the running back. He should change the running back. If it wasn't for Lamar Jackson, people would have said the same things about Trey Lance. He's not that great of a passer. He is going to have Oh, I've seen some of his passes.
I'll
No,
let you finish.
I've seen some of his passes when he was playing.
He's
last
a
year.
much more talented passer than Lamar Jackson. Don't even get into that shit.
Every single ball I watched him throw was either too high for the receiver, like the receiver still caught it, but they were like completely outstretched. No chance for running after the catch whatsoever on probably 80% of the throws I seen Trey Lance do when he was starting last year. I know it's a smaller sample size. Go ahead.
No,
I'm
just still giving your argument.
Yeah, it's a smaller sample size, but he's not that effective. So he would have to be insanely efficient like Lamar Jackson was. And I'm not saying Lamar Jackson is a good passer. I previously said, he's not the guy that's going to get you 4,500. And when the wheels come off, he's done.
That is absolutely not the case with Trey Lance, though, because you saw him play in 2 games as a rookie. Not only that, he gives you, like I said, that prominent role where Jimmy Garoppolo didn't throw it downfield. He was just an efficient passer. So he's got to learn to get that chemistry with his receivers, and I think you will see him do that this season. They're going to create schemes to get those players open. So Trey Lance also doesn't do what Lamar Jackson does, which is look to run first. He actually establishes himself in the pocket and looks to pass first, which we saw last season. So I think you'll see that efficiency go as he gets more comfortable in this scheme, and he's rolling into his second year. So I think he's going to hit the ground running right away.
Well, if he doesn't do what Lamar Jackson did, if he looks to pass first, then he will not make it into the top 5.
Oh, yes, he will. Because they're going to have to respect his arm. And he's got a genuinely very good arm that he can throw very deep on the ball with.
Right, but if they're respecting his arm, then he's going to run, which proves my point.
Sounds like an apology bet in the future. Of some variety. All right, you ready for my next one then?
Yep.
All right, so I've already talked up some players, so it's time for me to be a Debbie Downer and talk down some players, right?
I mean, you don't have to.
I'm going to talk down 2 players.
It's your bold fantasy football predictions.
All right, so we're going to talk about A.J. Brown next. I think A.J. Brown being traded from the Tennessee Titans to the Eagles is going to be detrimental to the value that he can provide in fantasy football. And I think A.J. Brown's going to finish with less than 900 receiving yards with his new team, the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's even with him being the number 1 wide receiver. So he's had small sample sizes in his past where he's got injury issues, doesn't play for the entire season, so we've already got that. The Eagles, I think, are going to look to be a nice balanced offense for this year where they were a lot more efficient winning games when they were running the ball as opposed to passing, and they were throwing on all 3 downs the first half of last season. So I think they're going to want to have a much more balanced offense, which is why they traded for him. I honestly don't think Jalen Hurts is as good of an NFL passer as Ryan Tannehill was. So I think you're going to see him draw the double teams. So I'm using the adverse of the argument that I was to another wide receiver earlier in this discussion. And honestly, I think he's going to have a disappointing ceiling where he's going to be nothing more than a low-end wide receiver 2 at the end of 2022. We saw the number 1 wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles not be highly prominent for fantasy football, and I think that could be the case this year where he draws the double teams, and Devontae Smith is maybe a wide receiver 3 middling in the same kind of pool. I mean, Jalen Hurts is a running quarterback anyway. Not as nearly good of a passer as I thought he was going to be, and you alluded to that last year, and I think that's going to be the case this year. He's going to have every opportunity to prove it this year now that A.J. Brown is there. But I just don't think the formula is going to add up for him to be successful, and I think he's going to be overdrafted this year, and you're going to be highly disappointed with the value that you give with him this year.
So I agree and disagree with sections of this. I do think will be overvalued and disappointed at most ADP. Although his ADP right now is 212. It's not horrible. But you said he wouldn't get 1,000 yards.
Correct.
And if we're just gonna assume that he's gonna stay healthy, for all 17 games,
which I don't think he will.
Most likely. He missed, let's see. He totally missed 3 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was 3, 4, Sorry, wrong spot. So he missed total 3 games. And then there was one more game that he must have got injured in because he only played 12% of the snaps. So let's say he's missed 4 games. He still finished with 869 yards. To reach 1,000 yards, it's only just under, so it's like 59 yards a game. That man can catch and run 1 catch for more than that per game. Like, I agree that he'll probably be disappointing for where you draft him. I disagree that he won't get over 1,000 yards if he stays healthy for at least 16 games.
Well, the only problem with that is Jalen Hurts can't throw it down the field to begin with. So
he doesn't have to throw it down the field. He doesn't have to throw it down the field.
What kind of Go ahead.
A.J. Brown could take a slant for 80 yards. A.J. Brown isn't a deep threat. A.J. Brown is, I've got the ball in my hand. You're not strong enough to tackle me. He's Deebo Samuel style. Like, that's the type of style he is. He is, I've got the ball in my hand. You're not big enough to stop me.
Let me play devil's advocate here, and him, because he's highly physical, quite large, is going to draw the double teams. There's a lot of times where he's going to be nothing more than a glorified blocker for a lot of running backs on the edges and Jalen Hurts. He's an interesting piece, which is a necessity in the Eagles' offense, but he's going to be a red zone target. I think if he's going to make up the volume, I don't think it'll be with the yards. It'll be in the red zone where he's going to go up and get those targets for them, because he's that kind of receiver as well.
Yeah, you're talking about the running, and yes, they did start winning when they started running, but they wanted to pass.
Well, that's why they traded for him, but it doesn't mean that's why it's going to be successful, though.
They're going to find out.
Yeah, well, if they get away from the pass early in the season, don't look for them to return to that either.
No, I honestly think it'll be strangely similar to last year. They're going to try passing like a crazy person for the first 6-7 weeks of the season, realize it doesn't work. But in those 6-7 weeks, A.J. Brown can average 80 to 100 yards per game, just off of sheer volume alone. Because A.J. Brown, it does not matter who's covering him. You put the ball near him, he's catching the ball, and he's going to get at least 5 more yards after that.
You sound like you're fairly high on him for next year, then.
I like A.J. Brown, just not at the cost. Like, if I could get A.J. Brown as, like, in the 3rd round, like middle of the 3rd round, I'd be happy with that. Okay. But I think he goes more like 2nd round, and I'm not there.
All right, you ready for my 4th bold prediction then?
Yeah.
All right, so we moved on to Josh Jacobs now. So Josh Jacobs is an interesting topic coming into this offseason, because he's a running back that they refused to pick up his 5th-year option, and the Raiders have now drafted Zamir White. Used significant capital to do that, mid-round pick, which is significant capital for a running back, because a lot of the times you'll see them pick him in the late rounds and even go undrafted to get this kind of capital. So I think they plan on doing something with Zamir White later in the season, maybe next season too. So my next prediction is Josh Jacobs is going to finish outside of the top 24 running backs in fantasy football, and I believe he's going to be benched for Zamir White by the end of the year. He's gone down in efficiency the last 2 years to 4.0 yards per carry, 3.9 yards per carry the last 2 seasons. And he's got a coach now, Josh McDaniels, that is not patient with that. He's not going to put up with that in that style of an offense. And he would rather go to a committee-style approach to a more efficient runner than deal with what Josh Jacobs has been doing the last few years, whether that be because of the offensive line play, bad schemes, whatnot. So honestly, I think Josh Jacobs is going to completely disappoint fantasy football owners this year and fall out of the top 24.
You're way off. He's definitely not falling outside the top 24.
Oh, come on.
Definitely not. You think they're going to put in
no.
Zamir White?
Stop
it. Stop it.
You're talking about the head coach that put in fucking Tim Tebow.
No, I'm not. No.
Josh McDaniels did.
Josh McDaniels had to.
No, he didn't.
Who else was he? And I'm sorry, did Josh McDaniels win with Tim Tebow?
Anyway, continue.
Josh Jacobs has never finished outside the top 20 at the running back position. Josh Jacobs was a first-round draft pick. Josh Jacobs.
That they didn't pick up his fifth-year option on, Ron. They don't see a future with him. They're going to want to see what they can get with the next guy. And on top of that, he's been less and less efficient the last 2 years just based on the volume. So they run him into the fucking dirt. The Raiders want to win, so they're going to look at all alternatives, which includes giving Josh Jacobs less volume. That's what's going to happen.
No. Because Josh Jacobs is a great pass catcher. What does Josh McDaniels like out of his running backs? Oh, yeah, pass catching ability. He's a great pass blocker. He likes pass blocking.
So that's why we brought in Devontae Adams. They have a freaking great tight end on the other end, and they have another number 2 wide receiver, which he's going to look to. So if you go from the standpoint of a Josh McDaniels offense, yes, I understand that Josh Jacobs is good in the passing game, and they could potentially use him in the passing game. But Josh McDaniels has always run a committee-style running back offense anyway, where they play 2, 3, 4 running backs back there anyway. So I think he's going to get sick of what Josh Jacobs doesn't offer him in that running game, which, by the way, Zamir White can catch the ball in the backfield, and you could potentially see him get benched.
What doesn't Josh Jacobs offer?
He can't run the ball.
He's crazy good at running the ball.
3.9 yards a carry is good at running the ball?
1 year at 3.9 yards.
4 yards,
huh?
3.9. So it's dropping. And they don't want they don't want him.
First off, last year he had 4 yards a carry, which was up
the year before.
So it's gone back up.
Oh,
you want someone that can average 4 yards a carry behind a shitty offensive line? Yeah. I do. Because they've probably done some work on that offensive line this year. You're going to bring in a, 4th round running back? This is almost as insane as your Jacoby Brissett is going to play over Tua bullshit. You are way off on here. Way off.
So you're telling me –
I'm sorry.
Hold on. So you're wait.
No. One more thing. The year that Josh Jacobs went for 3.9 a carry, he finished as the number 8 fantasy football running back that year. Number 8.
Based on volume, not on talent anymore. He had a great rookie year, and then since then has been dog shit in the running game. Decent in the passing game, dog shit in the running game. They don't want him. And Josh McDaniels is already – showing that he wants to move on from him. There's a reason you don't pick up the 5-year contract on a running back.
No. There's that reason is running backs.
They don't want him. They see something they don't like, and the coach does not want him.
They don't have the money. They just brought in Devontae freaking Adams. They don't have the money to pick up his 5th-year option. That doesn't mean they don't want him. They don't want to be locked into him next year.
No, they saw his per play efficiency drop the last 2 years, and they see
it went up from last year to this past year.
By a point, it's nominal. It's nothing. He's not going to be efficient next year.
Yes, they do want to see what they have, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to ride him because if he breaks down, guess what? We're not tied to him.
No, they want to win next year, and they're not going to win with Josh Jacobs.
What is this love with Zamir White? He was drafted in the 4th round?
Yeah.
If they wanted to replace Josh Jacobs,
they did draft a replacement.
They would, if they really didn't like Josh Jacobs, they would have drafted a replacement a lot sooner than the 4th round.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we taking running backs in the 1st round anymore? Because last time I checked, the first one was taken in the 2nd round, and there was a few more taken in the 2nd round, and then there was a whole plethora of them taken in the 3rd and 4th round. So no, it's about the range you can take someone to replace someone going down the line, especially when you don't take their 5th-year option. And this is a good argument. We haven't had one of these in a while.
Listen, you're wild. You're wild.
And you're full of bullshit.
No, I'm not. You are. You're talking about a guy that's averaged over 4 yards a carry for his entire career. He has never been under 1,000 rushing yards. Or last year he was.
Because Josh McDaniels runs a committee. Look for it to happen this year.
Last year he was 1,000 rushing yards. Didn't play every game, but this man averages 1,100 yards in his career, 4.3 yards a carry. And last year was the first year that they actually used him in the passing game. So even if he only gets used in the passing game, this man is still going to be a top 24 running back.
They're going to run a fucking committee next year, and it's not going to happen. They're going to fade him out of the offense by the end of the year.
They are not.
And then he's going to end up somewhere else.
Insane. This is almost as bad as your James Robinson is going to be fantasy relevant this year. You're outside of your mind, Joe. Outside of your mind.
Okay, this is going to be your cold take next year, and I'm going to make sure JJ puts it on the video for you, because guess what? They didn't pick up the fifth-year option, which means they don't fucking want him, Ron. He's going to be outside of the committee next year on another team.
He might be on another team next year, but that doesn't mean they're not going to use the more talented running back this year.
They don't believe he's talented.
You don't.
They are going to phase him out.
You don't believe he's not talented.
They're paying him. They are going to phase him out.
You don't believe, you don't believe he's talented. You have no idea what Josh McDaniels believes.
Fine. You died on that sword with Josh Jacobs this year, and you drafted.
I will, just like I died on the sword with Tua Tagovailoa, and I was 100,000% correct. 100,000% correct.
Man, I really thought you would throw your laptop at this fifth one, but you're doing it at the fourth one. All right, you ready for the fifth one?
Let's see what the fifth one is. Maybe it'll be gone.
All right. This one I think is the least likely, but I needed a really bold one. Apparently you thought that one was bold.
Outside 24. That's ridiculous.
All right, breathe. And mind you, I think this is the least likely, but I got to give a bold take because it's a bold take, okay? All right, so I said Breece Hall for the Jets will lead the NFL in all-purpose rushing and passing touchdowns as a rookie, but not rushing and passing work yards. The reason I gave for this was I don't think Michael Carter will get nearly as much of the passing work as Breece Hall will, and we saw at Iowa State that he was a big red zone target for them, specifically in the red zone. He was an absolute monster. He came out, had 14 touchdowns for him. Zach Wilson, there's kind of mixed reviews for him coming out of camp. Some are saying he's doing well. Some are saying he's been doing shitty. But there's nothing better.
It's a lot of fun, really.
It's a lot of fun.
Scrolling Twitter and you get, Zach Wilson looks like crap. Oh, Zach Wilson looks amazing. It's like, well, which one is it?
But the thing is there's nothing more than a better security blanket for a quarterback that could potentially go either way, depending on which beat writer you talk about, than a very talented running back. And this is a running back that's compared to the likes of someone like Adrian Peterson, which I think is an absolute fucking great comparison. Personally, there was a former Bears running back that I liked a little bit better. But honestly, you watch his game and he's just insanely talented. Would it be out of the realm of possibilities for him to potentially lead the league at the running back position in total touchdowns, passing and rushing? I don't think so. Like I said here, this would easily put him in top 6, 7 running back potential. I think the rushing and passing work will lack a little bit, but I think they'll really look to use him in the red zone, and that's kind of why I made this prediction, which is a little bit landish, but I think is an interesting one.
So the bold prediction is that rookie Breece Hall that plays for the New York Jets will lead the league in total
at the running back position.
Yeah, lead the league at the running back position in total running and receiving touchdowns, like individually or total.
All-purpose touchdowns.
Okay, all-purpose touchdowns in the running back position.
Correct. Not to mention, they have potentially 3 Pro Bowl offensive linemen already on that offensive line. Mekhi Becton showed that his rookie year. He needs to be healthy, so there's a preface there. They now have a left guard, which was in the Pro Bowl last year, who they signed from the 49ers, and Barrett Tucker is already playing at that level. So all things to consider.
I'm going to preface my argument.
Go ahead.
With I like the Jets this year. I think they take a step forward. I do. It all hinges on Zach Wilson, but I think they get there. However, you're out of your fucking mind thinking that a rookie running back for the New York Jets is going to beat out Christian McCaffrey. And
so the guy that's played a handful of games the last 2 years. So what's to say he's going to not play a handful of games this year? Anyway, continue.
Okay, Christian McCaffrey,
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette.
There's 2 running backs in that backfield.
Leonard Fournette.
I think it's more likely than Aaron Jones.
And there's probably at least 10 other, 5 other.
Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. Just keep helping my argument. There's no way. Mike White, or I'm sorry, that's the name I was going to bring up after Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson doesn't target his running back. Michael Carter's.
Hold on. No. That was a narrative that happened in the first part of the season. In the second half of last season, he absolutely did target the running back, and that's where we saw Michael Carter break out. It first started with Mike White doing that.
No,
and then Zach Wilson
was
did that. That was a completely different
breakout.
narrative. And not only that, he hasn't had this talented of a running back. Go back and watch the game film. He had 14 fucking touchdowns in college. There's not much of a transition to the running back position going into the NFL. And we've seen very young running backs perform very well, a la Adrian Peterson. Why can't another fucking player do that? And this is bold prediction. So we're going to live in my world, and I'm saying this is a possibility for him.
What weeks was Zach Wilson out? Do you remember?
We're gonna have to look that up. It was midway through the season.
Right. Because hold on, I'm trying to bring up my thing here. Also, against your argument is the fact that the Jets aren't even going to score that many touchdowns. They're just not. They won't even score enough for him to be in contention.
Ron, who led the league in all-purpose touchdowns at the running back position last year?
I don't know. Who?
Was it Jonathan Taylor?
Probably not. I don't think he had a lot of receiving ones.
All right, we need an answer to this.
But where are you going with this argument?
Hold on. Keep talking about your argument, and I'll look that up.
Okay, so here's Michael Carter. I'm looking at Michael Carter's game stats. I believe that it was looks like week 5-ish is when Zach Wilson was injured. He was gone for what, 3 games? 4 games?
4.
4 games?
Mm-hmm.
Looks like it was around this area where right here. So there was 3. So here's the beginning of the year. 2 targets, 1 reception. 3 targets, 2 receptions. 3 targets, 2 receptions. 3 targets, 1 reception. 3 targets, 3 receptions. 9 targets, 8 receptions. 14 targets, 9 receptions. 2-1, 6-4. Here's the end of the year. Or here's 1-1. Then Michael Carter looks like he missed 3 games. 2-1, 3-2, 1-1, 3-0. Please tell me where exactly did Zach Wilson target his running back?
You saw this happen over the second half of the season, and
I just told you.
Oh, yes, he was still hurt, but there was other running backs like fucking Tevin Coleman that started getting the ball passed to him. He's not the only running back that was in that committee there, Ron. Yes,
okay,
the running backs got.
Let's look at Tevin Coleman.
Oh my god! And it was Taylor with 18.
Okay, so what was the argument with that?
That Breece Hall could potentially be a bell cow.
Tevin Coleman never eclipsed 3 targets. Is there another running back in this committee that Zach Wilson targeted so much?
Ty Johnson.
Ty Johnson? All right, hold on. I'll bring him up. If you want to continue to look like a fool, it's fine with me. Oh, look. One game. He had, there was this one game here. He had 7. This one he had 8. Oh, that was Mike White. My bad. 4, 1. No, he averaged 3.4 targets a game.
So there's still passing work among all of them, though.
And
you're trying to print some narrative that among the committee last year that they weren't passing to the running back, and you saw there was still a little bit of fucking work in all of them.
Okay, but my thing is, they're still going to run a committee.
No, they're not. Absolutely, they are not going to run a committee because he's immensely more talented than all of them. And the narrative that he's going to fall into a committee, Breece Hall.
You think Michael Carter is going to do absolutely nothing?
Yeah, and that's going to be to the detriment of my Dynasty team next year.
You are crazy. So what? Breece Hall is just going to get 100% of the running back work.
He's going to get 70% of that running back
You are mad. He's not. Oh, my God. You're fucking insane.
It's insane for a bell cow running back to get 65 to 70% of the work in an offense.
You don't even know he's going to be a bell cow. And you know that they have a talented other running back on that team, Michael Carter. They're not just going to go away from Michael Carter completely. Where did Robert Saleh come from?
What's the game tape on Breece Hall and tell me he's not more?
I'm saying no. I'm not saying Breece Hall isn't insanely talented because he is. Robert Saleh comes from San Francisco. Who's the coach for San Francisco? Kyle Shanahan. How many running backs does Kyle Shanahan use in his offense? 87. So the fact that you think that Robert Saleh is just going to be like, nah, one guy, 80% of the touches, let's fucking go. And not use Michael Carter, who played very well last year, is asinine.
Well, that's why we have bold takes. Are you glad that you got that off your chest?
That's not a bold take. That is a cold take, and I need to write down the time. And JJ could probably just start filming his cold takes video now because.
All right, I can't wait till we get to your episode and they're nothing but lukewarm takes, safe ass takes.
No, they'll just be smart takes, is what they'll be. I'm not going to come at people with some this guy who's always been a top 20 running back is now going to fall past 24 because they drafted a 4th round running back.
So that's why you keep losing apology bets to me, huh?
I lose drafting apology bets to you. That's different.
And in season ones. We'll see, Ron. I don't think some of these takes will be that crazy by the end of the year. Those last 2 ones pissed you off, though.
Those last 2 are going to seem like you were taking crazy pills, like maybe you did some questionable narcotics before you got on and started doing your bold takes. That's what those last 2 are going to be like. The other 3, not so bad.
Ron, we said bold takes, not lukewarm takes. It doesn't mean I necessarily think that's what's going to happen, but we have to do all the outlooks in the NFL and some crazy shit like this.
We said bold takes, not I belong in a mental institution takes.
Oh, my God. Anyway, guys, if you like what you hear on Garbage Time Fantasy Football, Ron, where can you find us?
Right here on the YouTube at Garbage Time Fantasy Football.
Like and subscribe to the bullshit we put you through, please.
Please, it's so much fun for us. Go to over our website, www.garbagetimeff.com. Leave us voicemails, hate mails. You can review the show over there. It shows you everywhere we are available, like Apple, Spotify, Google, iTunes, Tunein, and iHeart. I always try to mix those 2.
Yeah, no shit.
But yeah, best place is our website, www.garbagetimeff.com.
Yep, and tomorrow, Dynasty Football Dad will join Garbage Time Fantasy Football for an NFC North breakdown. I think it'll be a little bit less of an emotional teardown for me, as Dynasty Football Dad and JJ will be going head-to-head, Vikings against Bears in the NFC North breakdown, and I can just sit back and enjoy watching that.
I can't wait to listen to that one. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, that one's going to be great. So, guys, tune in tomorrow, and bring the popcorn. It's going to be a good one. Now that my roast is over, let's get out of here, Ron.
All right. Later, everyone.
Good night.